as the business behind Ubuntu is that not many people have heard of Canonical. And that is one of our challenges that we seek to change.
Проблема в том, что многие люди не слышали о Canonical, хотя знают о Ubuntu. И сегодня как раз задача презентации в том, чтобы рассказать о Canonical.
So let me first explain a bit about the company, because it's important to understand what is the organisation that is one of the largest commercial contributor to the Ubuntu project.
Вначале Пол расскажет о коммерческой основе компании и чем же вообще компания занимается.
So we have 420 people, which will go to 500 people, which are currently on staff, the most of which are actually engineers. So we have about 350 engineers on the Canonical team. We have London. So this is where Boris sits. He sits just about here. So the engineers sit here, the salespeople, we sit down here. Because engineers always come first. So London, then we have Boston, then this is Montreal, and this is Taipei. But this is obviously pretty important for us because we spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of money working with the ODMs, the device manufacturers. I spoke a long time.
Все поняли? It was clearly understood.
Oh, great, fantastic.
Вообще, наверное, перевод реально нужен кому-то? Может, вы его не тратите?
Давайте, если кому-то что-то будет непонятно, то тогда я просто расскажу. А так я... Okay, as I said, that they understand you a little bit, but if something will be ununderstandable, they will ask me and I will translate this part.
We'll work as a team.
Yeah. So we do
in English, yeah?
Yes,
sounds good. So I think from Mark's session, he explained essentially that the objective of Canonical. The important thing from our perspective is that unlike other open source organizations are out there, Ubuntu, which is available in the community, is exactly the same Ubuntu which we sell our services around. Yeah, so the commercial model, Ubuntu community, Ubuntu the commercial, exactly the same. That's very different, obviously, from Novell, from Red Hat, etc. So we as a commercial organization, we have my job is much harder. Yeah. I used to work at Red Hat, just the other side of these doors. These are the Red Hat guys. It was easy. So, but what it means is that we, Canonical, we really have to deliver value to our customers to earn their business. So that's the fundamental premise of the organisation, is that we deliver value to our customers. And Ubuntu will always be, it is one of Mark's, the founding principles of Ubuntu, is that it will always be freely available for people to use, which is great. In terms of how we essentially then make money, so we offer services and also tools around Ubuntu. So companies, they take Ubuntu, they start using it in some complex environments, in some mission critical environments. They want to manage Ubuntu in good ways, and they also want to get support on Ubuntu in good ways. That's when we, Canonical, start to earn our money. That's essentially our business model. And I'll take you through that business model today. So the program, essentially the commercial program, which we take to market, is essentially something called Ubuntu Advantage. So Ubuntu Advantage is essentially a subscription-based business model. So I don't know, who here has purchased a Red Hat subscription before? Anybody? Oh, fantastic. So the business model essentially is this, is if you have a machine and you wish to subscribe it to commercial support from Canonical, you will purchase an Ubuntu Advantage subscription. Make sense? Okay. So we do not care about cores, processors, sockets, virtual machines.
Per machine.
Just per physical machine. I have one physical machine, I buy one Ubuntu Advantage subscription. There are 4 components of an Ubuntu Advantage subscription. Systems management. Yeah? Makes sense?
Platform application.
That's right, I don't need it. Platform and application support. Yeah. In the Western economies, we have legal assurance. Yeah. And then we have a knowledge base. Yeah. Great. Thank you. But if we talk specifically about these 2 blocks here, systems management. So we have a technology which is called landscape. Who's heard of landscape? No? Okay, that's good. Oh, fantastic. So landscape is essentially a tool which allows you to very easily manage multiple machines, whether they be desktops or servers. Okay? So as I'm sure you're aware, that when you have quite complex pieces of infrastructure, you have many different machines running Ubuntu, whatever, Red Hat, Microsoft, Unix, whatever, it becomes hard work to manage, to patch, to update those machines. So with our systems management technology, you can do that very easily. That's landscape. So when you buy that Ubuntu Advantage subscription, you get the ability to manage it via landscape. Platform and application support. So this is essentially the traditional thing you would expect from any enterprise vendor, the ability to pick up the phone and talk to a Canonical engineer. And of course, as organizations put more and more machines into production, then it becomes more and more critical, and of course, they want support. So these 2 boxes at the top here tend to be the reasons why people pay Canonical money. This business model from Canonical is fairly new. It is 9 months old, so it's a pretty, as I said, it's a pretty new business model for us. But of course, we're not just interested in, how should I say it, providing support. We also want to increase the understanding, the knowledge of our customers as well. So within this, we also have something called the knowledge base, where we try and share our knowledge with our customers as well to get their skill set up to higher, because of course, the better you are here, the less it costs us here. Do that make sense? And then legal assurance. I don't think perhaps in Russia legal assurance is too much of an issue, but certainly in the US, where we do a fair amount of business, people get concerned about using open source technologies and getting sued for IPR infringement, those types of things. So under the Ubuntu Advantage program, we essentially say we will take the legal liability, we'll take the burden off you if you essentially are part of the Ubuntu Advantage program. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions? Sound like a good business model?
А в России когда планируется поддержка такая?
Support in Russia.
Good question. Let me. In terms of where we are focusing our efforts and our energies, in terms of our commercial activities. Okay? So Mark talks about a very wide spectrum of devices and ecosystems that we look at. Mobile phones, netbooks, tablets, all those types of things. But where we, in terms of corporate services, focus our efforts and energies, it is in 3 distinctly focused areas of activity. The first area, and it's no surprise, and this is the area where we're most well known, is obviously the desktop, the corporate desktop. So there is quite a large shift going on at the moment where organizations are more and more accepting of a Linux-based client solution. There are a number of reasons why that is, and Boris will run through those later in the day. But suffice to say that from a business perspective, we are now migrating organizations with tens of thousands of Microsoft machines over to tens of thousands of Ubuntu-based machines. Okay? That's not the case here in Russia. I would mislead you if I painted that picture. But what we tend to find is that the most forward-thinking, the most technologically advanced, the companies which are changing the technology landscape of today no longer care about running Microsoft on the client. What they want is something very lightweight, something very secure, something you can get your applications through your web browser. So, and all of these things mean that Ubuntu is a very, very good solution for you. So desktop for us is a very important part of our business. The second area we focus is on the server. The server side of the business is increasing, no question. If you look at why and where we're very strong, it's in typically LAMP type environments. I think Mark alluded to it downstairs. If you look at one of the reasons why Red Hat is very strong, it has the ecosystem that sits around the distribution. It has the certifications. It's no secret that Ubuntu does not have Oracle certification. That means you cannot run Oracle on top of Ubuntu if you want Oracle support. But, again, as more applications are based on LAMP-type technologies, it means that the certifications don't really matter. And in those types of scenarios, Ubuntu is a great solution. Because, as I say, it's freely available, and actually the support services around the distribution are optional. So we do get an increasing amount of server business coming through to us. And interestingly, we get an increasing number of organizations migrating away from the commercial Linux distributions onto Ubuntu. And then the third area where we focus a lot of our time, effort, and energy is in the cloud. It's in the cloud space. So again, who here has heard of Eucalyptus? Okay. Who's heard of OpenStack? Okay, even less. Interesting. So Ubuntu is the first distribution to include technologies which allow you to create private clouds. Okay? Does that make sense? So you can take Ubuntu and you can deploy it onto a number of machines, and you can create a private cloud. And most interestingly, that private cloud happens to have the same API as the Amazon Web Services. Okay, so again, perhaps here in Russia, where AWS is not as big as it happens to be in the US and Western Europe, it's not as interesting. But the ability to replicate Amazon-like infrastructure within your own firewall is actually a very, very interesting thing for a lot of Western and US-based companies. It means I can take my Amazon machine images, which I'm running in the cloud, and bring them inside within my own organization behind my own firewall and run exactly the same images in a very, very flexible type environment. And I think what you'll see in this space here, whereas it doesn't generate huge revenues for us today, it is essentially the technology of the future. And from an open source perspective, why this is important, because if you think of the cloud and how this really is going to be pervasive, really it's going to be based on open standards and open source. And there are two major players in this area at the moment. One is Eucalyptus, and the other is the technology which is called OpenStack. Which wins? No one knows. But the beauty of the open source development deployment model, of course, means that we can actually include either both or the best of breed. So these are the three areas which we focus on from a business perspective. Any questions? I'll ask another question. Sorry, we can have a question. Next slide. So this really is a very granular version of the business model. This is what I sell day in, day out. Desktop, server. The desktop is available in two particular flavors. We have essentially the standard and advanced. The difference between the two is essentially we include support for the virtualization technologies in the advanced flavor. On the server side of things, essentially essential, standard, advanced. Again, essential is really for your basic web serving, mail type activities. Standard includes support for virtualization, and then advanced includes essentially 24/7 and clustering support. And then on top of that, we have an optional cloud support layer. Okay? So the business model is this, is essentially if I'm going to set up a cloud, and I'm going to use 4 machines for setting up that cloud, I would actually purchase a standard subscription and then cloud support on top. And then I'm off and running. I think next slide on that. And the beauty of the business model, and this is how we essentially differentiate ourselves from our competitors, is that we do not require you to purchase a subscription on every single machine. Okay? So those of you who have experience of Red Hat or Novell's business model, if you consume one of their enterprise subscriptions, you are then obliged to purchase that subscription for every single machine that you have within your infrastructure. Ours is much more flexible. It essentially allows you to choose where you'll actually deploy Ubuntu Advantage, where you'll actually get the support. And of course, that really then allows you to reduce the cost, which you'll actually ultimately be paying for support. So, as I say, typically in dev and test, you may not want support. And of course, that typically is where organizations also have a lot of machines. So you can save an awful lot of money under the Ubuntu Advantage model. My Russian's getting quite good now.
Yeah.
Dev and test. So, in answer to the question which we had a little while back, thank you. So in terms of how we envisaged scaling this type of business model out into the various the countries which we want to operate in, obviously Canonical is very good at building Ubuntu. That is our core skill. Yeah, that's what we do very, very well. So what we're looking to build really is an ecosystem where we can sign up partners, whether they be hardware or software partners, who can deliver local support in countries such as Russia, and essentially feed back into ourselves what we essentially call level 3 issues, level 3 type support issues, back into the core engineering teams. So that is essentially our business model, how we envisage scaling these things out. Partners here in Russia understand their customers better than we could ever aspire to. So we really want to enable the local economy, the local community to be able to deliver the frontline support, and then, as we say, really pass back the core engineering stuff back into Canonical. Any questions on that?
You've got some kind of training program for local engineers, or how exactly do you provide support service?
So through the support service, the customer have different way to reach Canonical support. It can be done through the web, it can be done through the phone, when it's a direct support relationship. When we're talking about those support relationships, of course, Canonical will have a partner enablement program where we train effectively people locally to understand how to involve event to question and also escalate it as well. So it's not the training into learning Linux skills, the partner should have Linux skills, but it's more training into learning the path and the process to escalate in order to answer the customer the fastest possible. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
So Boris and his team will spend a lot of time working with our partners in this section to firstly qualify that they are capable of delivering the type and the quality of support that we would expect. And secondly, essentially, if not, getting them up to speed. Of course, from a business model perspective, we would love as many questions to be answered here as possible. Yeah, because down here it costs us a considerable amount of money. But as I say, we will sign up partners who are very capable with strong Linux skills, and of course, Russia has some great skills here. So I think over the coming 12-18 months, you'll see us, whilst not with a direct presence, you'll see us look to build a very strong partner ecosystem here.
I think,
Oh, life cycle of support. Thank you.
So you see, I'm very lucky. My slide doesn't have too much Russian on it. So I will speak again very slowly, but please stop me. Yeah, I have a French accent, so maybe not the most evident to understand. So I would say, what is very interesting in the release cycle of Ubuntu is we have engineered it. It didn't come out by magic. It came out to answer two different things. To answer corporate customers who need long lifetime support, proper interfaces, who need software that doesn't move, as well as the community, the end user, everybody who uses a desktop every day. And then what we want is we want very fresh software often. It's very hard to reconcile the two. Yeah? So if you use the enterprise Linux distribution on the server, they're very robust, very stable. It may be not ideal for your latest laptop. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So it's very hard to reconcile the two. So what we decide to do is we decide to have two different streams. Yeah? The first stream is what we call the LTS, so the long-term support version. And long-term support will give you 3 years support on a desktop, 5 years on a server. Okay? I tell you that currently we're even speaking about extending those time again. But for the moment, 3 years desktop, 5 years server. Now, what's very interesting about the LTS releases is they're coming out every 2 years. If you didn't know, the number in Ubuntu, the first one is the year, 2008, 04 is the month, April. We always release in April and in October. So yeah, we're releasing this month. You know, it's coming very 2 weeks. So, what's interesting is because every 2 years, remember we are a time-based release distribution. We always release on time. Since 2004, no miss. Always. Distribution is never late. And why can we do it and the other can't? Is because we will, 2 weeks before, if we see something is not ready, we will revert to the older version, right? But still ship the distribution. So the distribution is maybe not as bleeding edge as other Linux distribution you'll find, but it retains what we try to do. Easy to use, simple, works on majority of hardware, no headache, right? And that's really why, because we are time-based, you can count on it. And in a context of an enterprise, in the context of a business relies on Ubuntu is very, very important. In fact, the most money being spent nowadays by enterprise are because they are here, yeah, no more support, but they have not yet qualified the next version. No upgrade possible yet because we were busy, always late, etc. So what the company ends up doing is buying extra end-of-life support, very expensive. Yeah? But you know that, yeah? You all say yes, huh? Certain company in Redmond. So you buy end-of-life support until here, right? Because you're late and you're going to spend all that time trying to qualify it, and yet when you come up, you're out of support again. Or if you're not out of support, you have the smallest support lifetime, you need to upgrade again. Just, always late, right? So we try to palliate this, and the way we work is supported 5 years on the server or 3 years on desktop, but 2 years after, on the spot, never miss, the next version is out. So 2 years after, you can start qualifying, you already got the new version. But this is still supported and stable. You don't need to upgrade, no rush. Yet you already have the new software to qualify. So that means you will be able to move as early as possible and then enjoy the full lifetime support and etc, etc, etc. So you understand what? One time-based release and making sure you release a new version within a smaller time than what the support is, right? So it's a simple mathematics, right? And that's what we did. At the same time, doing this every 2 years, open source is, Linux community is developing so fast. 2 years is prehistoric time for a distribution. Yeah, it's true, isn't it? That's one of the problems as well. So what we did is we say, right, we're going to release as well a current stream. So the normal version of Ubuntu. And that version is going to come out every 6 months. It's going to represent the best of the community, what we can put the best of the software there. But we're going to support it only for 18 months. So it's very short support lifetime. But what's interesting is, again, they are coming in the middle of my LTS releases. So as an enterprise, as a business relying on Ubuntu, running an application on Ubuntu, I'm going to be able, without putting it in production, but just for testing, for qualifying, I'm going to be able to test there, and to test there, and to test there. Continually testing along the line, so planning my upgrades, never being caught by surprise, never like, oh my god, what do we do? No, because I've always had a constant stream of code and distribution. And this is making the distribution very powerful. This is making the support much easier. If you call us, support, and you're here, and you say, oh, I have a problem with this software, it doesn't work, it crashes. The first thing our support people are going to do, in a normal distribution, because you have nothing on top there, what they're going to do is they're going to find a bug, look upstream, take some time to kind of have a trace, kind of have some file, back and forth. What we're going to do in support, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take the next version up, and we're going to look into the changelog. And if we see in a changelog a fix that might look like what the customer looks, immediately we're going to say, look, have that package. Try it, not supported, not for production, just to test if it's effectively fixing the problem. So we have a very fast reaction to handle a new package, test it, yes, it works for me, and then we can call a backport and a fix into the distribution. Understood? Right. So we're really looking at having time-based release, something you can plan on, an upgrade path that is already decided, and you'll be able to follow continuously. There's always a lot of code within the Ubuntu distribution. Okay. Customer stories. Yeah?
Yeah. So the next 3 slides are just to give you some flavour of the type of work that we are that we're doing.
So this is what we've done, and certain name we can mention, certain other name we can't. So this is an investment bank, right? That's what we can say.
But this project was very interesting because not only is it an investment bank banks typically are very, how should I say, they are pretty aggressive. Excuse me. They are pretty aggressive adopters of our technology. So investment banks were the very first people to really test Linux in anger. They were the first people to move their trading systems over to Linux. So this was very interesting because it was the first investment bank that we were aware of which actually went for Linux on the client.
And I would say what is even more interesting is they sold this system internally to their own users, right? So we did a lot of work with integration into Active Directory. Those people are making a very, very complex Active Directory setup. So that was the main of our work, was working with the Active Directory setup, because it was quite hard. Third-party software, customization, all this is part of what we do when we do consulting and specific builds for the company. The beautifulness of Linux is open source, and we control Ubuntu, so we can really trim it down. What people run in production there has nothing or not a lot to do with the CD you download. The CD you download, end user, right? Very features, music store, app software, very good. For those people, it's all about control and security. So no music store, I'm afraid. But the idea is what we did there. What you need to, I play myself with Ubuntu every day. I play to break it, I play to destroy it, I play to, the smallest system I can get Ubuntu to, and Ubuntu. Shell, apt-get, network stack. system, right? This, 76 megabytes. It's quite small. Deployed on the network, done, right? So from there, we can then build from the bottom up to the enterprise for exactly what they require. If you have exactly what you require, it means less upgrade, less cost, less downtime, faster to deploy, faster to manage. It's got all advantages. So there's a lot of interest to first go into customizing the Linux you want for the enterprise and for the particular business requirement the enterprise has. So we will answer this with an image, and then we support that image going into production. So that's exactly the situation there. 4 months, and that's from on-site assessment, finding out what is going on, reporting what they're doing, to first deployment. So it's not, considering the requirement, it's not that long. Landscape, as Paul mentioned, was used as the centralized solution. So what Landscape gives you is web centralized management internally to the firewall. Yeah. And the first rollout they did was 1,000 desktop. Now, we like to know how many, but investment bank, slightly secret. We don't have an exact figure of how much have been sold, but this is the plan. Now, another customer, very different one, this one. This is the French, like me, sorry. The French police, the French country police, the gendarmerie. So gendarmerie is a local institution, yeah, sponsored by government and taxes, taxpayer money. And they decided to switch a lot of things from Windows. So what is very interesting here as a desktop situation is they have started with a very small amount. Not that. Not that. Very, very small amount. They contact us initially for 300 admin people within the gendarmerie with very specific requirements. So we built that. And the difference with the server, in a server land, the application will direct everything. You want to run your application, you're going to look at support, you're going to buy that OS, you're going to buy that hardware, everything is down the line. In desktop, no. In desktop, everything is cost. So they initially deployed a small amount of desktop, and before we know, the scope keep on growing and growing and growing, and oh, and these guys as well, and this department as well. Oh, we had that requirement, and then we can do those people. And it never stopped. So we're very happy. It's a very successful project. They're 3 years now in the middle of it. It's about 42,000 machines deployed. That's the total plan on top. It's very, very successful. A different of that engagement too is they engage with the PSC. So PSC is our premium service engineer. It's a dedicated support. So instead of ringing phone line or filing ticket on the web, you have a single person, always, that not only fix the bugs, answer your issue, but help you with a proactive vision of the support. Yeah. So Mark mentioned UDS, Ubuntu Developer Summit. Every 6 months before releasing Ubuntu, we meet Canonical, community, customer, you're invited. Everybody is. You just need to come to Budapest. Yeah, we do every 6 months. We have Ubuntu Developer Summit. It's ever once in America, once usually Europe, Central Europe, to give a chance for people to assist when they can't travel that far. Right? So very interesting during that development, we set the next version of Canonical. Everybody participates. 6 months later, you can see the result. All this is on a platform called Launchpad, launchpad.net. Everything is in there. There's nothing hidden. It's totally open. If tomorrow you want to request that, there's a Russian background on Ubuntu, no problem. Request it. It's open. Anybody can make any request to the platform. They get accepted, then it's a democratic system. But So to come back, the PSC is effectively that person who's going to represent you at UDS as well. So the customer will have his future represented during the developer summit. where you could effectively say, this is what I need, this is what I do not need. So, coming back there, where we have as well the stakeholder became community involved. That's very interesting to us because they spend a lot of time to insert those systems into their administration, and they actually documented that. So I recommend it. Search it on the internet. It's available. They published all the work they did, and this has involved them back into the community with other people trying to do the same. They said, oh yeah, we want to, oh yeah. And it seems so difficult to bring Linux into enterprises as desktop and as clients. They did it, and I think that their learning experience is great for everybody. So the license saving as well was significant by millions, obviously, when you remove a license, and there's no question there. The next one is a very interesting one. You're aware of that one? No? Right. So, this is a company who contacted us. They run a very large number of desktop. It's actually, this is wrong now, it's more, it's nearly 12,000, 11,000 something. And what's interesting is they are all mobile. They are all within the territory typing orders. Yeah, they're selling insurance, so they have to type order onto their Linux machine. They rely on very bespoke applications, but particularly they rely on 3G networks. Because they're in the middle of the country, they're everywhere, they're going right and left. And this was quite of a daunting project. We started with 904. We started to build the image with them for 904 with the target of deploying, obviously, an LTS version. So again, what I was mentioning before, the idea of having several, stream of the distribution, several versions of the distribution, is helping us to start maybe with something that is not long-term, but adapt the technology as we build the system and bring it to a long-term deployment completely at the start of it. That's the most important thing. So they didn't have to wait 6 months after LTS. They deployed a GA LTS. So when LTS was out, they could deploy and enjoy the full time of the support. That's a very interesting case. So again, PSC here, and this was rolled out in August, in September 2010. They had to roll out, imagine doing an upgrade of running machine of a 3G and replacing the wall OS on it for 12,000 people. Interesting project, isn't it? It took about 6 months, you had to do full deployment from zero to have now all the machine running the Ubuntu build. And it's quite difficult because of those network situations.
So,
questions?
Yeah. So that's the business model. So that's how we go about making money. It gives you a flavour of the type of engagements that we've done. The 3 examples that we gave were obviously specific to the desktop, but we do a lot of business on the server side and also increasingly so on the cloud side. But hopefully it's given you a good understanding of where we Canonical essentially are setting our ambitions in terms of being a successful commercial entity. And in terms of us being a successful commercial entity, traveling this line between making money and also engaging the community, that's a very, very important one for us to get right. And often people ask me about in terms of making money, isn't that going to be a bad thing for the community? And I say absolutely not. I mean, Ubuntu needs a very strong, commercially successful Canonical behind it. So that's what we set out. That's what Boris and my objectives are. We're here to really ensure the sustainability of Ubuntu going forward. So hopefully, as I say, that's given you a flavour of the commercial model that sits behind it. Perhaps before we take a 10-minute break or so, what questions can we answer for you guys?
Yes, is in your support system a place for small businesses? Thank you.
Fantastic, great question, thank you. So, the simple answer is absolutely. To be honest, I think we probably keep more people employed in small businesses than we do at Canonical itself. If I look at the ecosystem that's out there around Ubuntu as a distribution, there are many, many businesses who are thriving and surviving off their own services on top of Ubuntu. That's fantastic, and we are not going to do anything to change that. What we are going to do, as Canonical, is obviously put a stamp on our services behind Ubuntu. Because as I say, from that level 3 description, we want to pull together all of the distributed organisations which are out there and pull it back into the actual distribution itself. And of course, we're going to put a commercial model around this because we need to make money. Yeah, Mark's a rich guy, but he's not that rich. Okay, he cannot continue to fund. So we want to enable companies to make a business out of Ubuntu in this area here, and then pull them into our business model at the bottom.
I think there's the fact as well that localization, as we said, is just the key. You will want Russian business approached by Russian partners, by Russian specialists, but I think it makes sense in every country. In Europe, it's exactly the same. That's the model we're working on a bit everywhere. So.
Thank you. And the second question, can you propose any affordable support for small company? For example, 10 computers.
So the best support I can offer for you is via the community. Yeah? You'll be amazed at the support that you will get out there. I mean, obviously, our cost base is geared around supporting enterprises within mission-critical environments. To be frank, most companies with 10 computers find that prohibitive. But you will be amazed at the support that you can get out there on the Ubuntu forums from local organisations. So that is the best advice I can give.
Well, as far as I know, in Ubuntu 11.04 there will be a GNOME shell, and I would like to know how the decision was made and how it is taking place every time when you are come to a conclusion, which
Зачем все это делать? For each purpose.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So this is the $10 million question, isn't it? At the moment, is it? So how the decision was made. I didn't make it, so it's very hard to tell. But what I will say is that it's been some disagreement of a certain project. Ubuntu has been resting on projects, but we have decided to actually go onto our own interfaces. All the relation really broke down, and what's happening, tell you the truth, it's not something, that's more something that Mark will deal with rather than us to that certain level. If there is some friction in communities, I think there's always been friction in communities, and you have to look at the survival of the fittest. It's the law of the nature, unfortunately. I think the users will tell what they prefer, and I think we'll see the future of either one interface or the other be decided by the user. Look, I mean, I use Linux since 2.0 kernels. Yeah, Slackware 4.0, Red Hat 5.0. Yeah, it's all very old stuff. At this time, it was the same was, exactly the same. Yeah, you heard of Window Maker? What happened to it? There. Yeah, you heard of Black Box? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? The user will make the choice, and the victory will come from the choice of the user. And who is right, who is wrong, I don't think it matters too much. What's important is we have a Linux system. What's important is if you rely on Ubuntu into commercial environment, we have the engineering skill, the services to build it exactly to your liking. So it doesn't really matter if this comes default, or do you understand? It matters for an end user, sure, this can be changed. In a business context for us, it's not that important.
Are you going to be a public cloud provider?
A public cloud provider. So that's a very, very good question. There is no immediate plan right now for us to start building data center.
In the near future?
In the near future, I don't think there is some definite plan. It's potential, maybe, but nobody has laid anything yet. What we're trying to do, though, however, by including the Eucalyptus technology, the private cloud technology into Ubuntu server, is to enable you, or maybe your future business, to build a public cloud service. And you will rest, do you understand this? And you will rest that onto that technology that gives you, Ubuntu Enterprise Blocks, Ubuntu Enterprise Cloud is pretty much Amazon in my data center.
Yeah. I mean, just to pick on Boris's point, so there's absolutely no plans for us to move into providing cloud services.
Like Amazon or Express?
No, we're not going to compete there.
None whatsoever. But what we really want to do is make Ubuntu a great platform at both creating private clouds and also as a guest operating system within other
You create software but not deploy.
Correct.
Exactly.
So I think this is again, if you look at where businesses can make money on top of Ubuntu, it's exactly that field. So tomorrow you could come, for example, in Moscow and buy a big data center and put 10,000 machines on it, run Ubuntu Enterprise Cloud, then develop your own interfaces, billing interface, web portal. You're going to do a bit of work in it. You know, it's not a turnkey solution, but the technology will be there. And this enables you to resell with a high value, obviously, and survive. No problem.
You've got already partners in Russia?
In terms of our partnerships in Russia, we are just starting. So, to be honest, in terms of Canonical, Mark aside, this is our first trip to Russia.
First one.
I've been here many times with Red Hat, but this is the first Canonical venture into Russia. But I'm very confident that we will get things up and running here very quickly.
I think so.
Please.
Вопрос такой, Landscape это некий веб-сервис, обслуживаемый компанией Canonical, насколько я понял.
Landscape.
So after the break,
You
we're
will
going
find
to take
out.
a 10-minute break, and then we're going to talk through into more technical details, some of the work that we do on the client, landscape, and also cloud. So that perhaps is a good time for us to take a 10-15 minute break, and then we'll start again.
10-15 then. Second half. Thank you.